It is now my honor and privilege to confer the honorary degree upon Kimberle Williams Crenshaw. Provost Bowers will join me to hood Professor Crenshaw. You'll see what that means in a second. Professor Crenshaw will be escorted to the podium by Professor Gail Garfield, who nominated her. Professor Garfield, please bring Ms. Crenshaw to the lectern.
Mr. President, it is my privilege to present to you and this assembly Professor Kimberle Williams Crenshaw.
I'm going to say a few things. Professor Crenshaw, your critical thinking, cutting-edge scholarship have helped to make our country a richer, more vibrant, and more just place. John Jay College of Criminal Justice is honored to confer upon you, Kimberle Williams Crenshaw, the degree of Doctor of Civil Law, honoris causa. There we go. Professor Crenshaw, please address your fellow graduates in the class of 2016.
Thank you so much. I speak all over the country and all over the world, but I have to say that I've never been more excited and more nervous in the 30 years that I've been doing this. To the president, to the board of trustees, the chancellor, provost, distinguished faculty, administrators, family and friends, and most importantly, to the class of 2016, good morning. I am delighted and honored to be here. This is a dream to be honored by a school that includes and takes seriously the mission of social justice. I am also delighted and incredibly moved by Gail Garfield, and I thank her for lifting up my name. We met in the trenches many, many years ago, and I admire the work that she continues to do to underscore the basic understanding that knowledge doesn't just come from the top, and it doesn't just get distilled. It is knowledge that comes from activism. It's knowledge that comes from those whose lives we hope to uplift. I have but 2 minutes, probably less now, to disrupt the illusion that I'm standing here alone, and also hopefully to disrupt certain illusions that stand in the way of social justice. First, there are just too many names of the living and now those who have been passed on, upon whose shoulders I stand. Some are here today, colleagues, mentors, friends, board members, and staff of AAPF, and colleagues at both the U.C.L.A. and Columbia Law School. I want to say their names, but I know they will allow me to use my time to say the names of others who stand to be forgotten. I do, though, want to say one name and to express my surprise and delight to be enjoying this special day with Eve Ensler, my muse, my mentor, my sister, and my friend. I, along with millions of others, have been inspired by Eve in more ways than I can count. Her vision is legendary, and I want to tell you that you can catch something if you hang around Eve Ensler. You can catch a belief, as outrageous as it might seem, that the world that we dream of isn't something just for the future, but one for us to enjoy. Her brainchild, 1 Billion Rising, is a testament to what can happen when impatience with injustice turns into a demand for that life here and now. 1 Billion Rising was the moving force behind the Say Her Name vigil that we held together in Union Square last year, where the families of women who were killed by police were lifted up and we supported their calls for justice. Our lesson from Say Her Name is that if you can't see change, you can't actually advocate for it. Black women who have been killed by the police are not seen. So in that spirit, I want to provoke you just for a moment to see what we don't see. So you all have stood up, you've sat down. I'm going to ask you to do it one more time. I would like to ask the graduating class of 2016 just for a moment to stand up. This is a class committed to social justice. You've been in an institution that has spent the last several years instilling in you those values. But what I want us to think about and grapple with is, what do we do about the social justice issues that we may not be able to see? So I'm going to read some names. When you hear a name of someone that you don't know, I want you to sit down. The last person standing who knows a name, I'm going to have a mic come around to you. You tell us who they are. Okay, so let's start. Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, Maya Hall, Tanisha Anderson, Natasha McKenna, Ara Russer, Michelle Cousseau. So thank you, and I was just kidding, no mic coming around. But I want us to look around, and I want you to remember what you see. Why don't we know the names of the second group that I listed? These are all women who were killed within 2 weeks of all the men's names that you know. What does it mean that we don't even know their names? How does it encourage us to think about what we need to do to be agents of social justice? Justice can sometimes be obscured by the frame we use to perceive the world, by mere habits of thought and silence, and by the tradition and belief and common practices that direct our very understanding of a social problem. The AAPF began the Say Her Name campaign to attend to the suffering that happens in the margins of our collective consciousness and our actions. And more broadly, we do it to remind ourselves that what was once taken for granted need not limit the possibility for our future. From the longer arc of history, we should not despair that there may be no exit from today's impasse on police violence. Some believe that there is no way out. Either there's security of our officers or safety of Black and brown bodies. But let's remember that there was a time right here in New York City when Black bodies could be rounded up and without a jury trial, without representation, without even the ability to testify on their own behalf, were shipped south, never to be seen or heard again by one's family and loved ones. And courts stood mute, unwilling to disrupt the sanctity of private property. Good, liberal, justice-loving people believed that there was no alternative and that this injustice was just the way things had to be. Now, the fact that we no longer are beholden to this injustice tells us that there is hope, that we will not always believe that the death of unarmed people is warranted by the imperative of security. Our lesson now is that social activism matters. So as you look forward to the next chapter of your life, you will be given many opportunities, face seemingly insurmountable barriers, and tempted to shy away from your social justice activist roots here at John Jay. It won't be easy. Being a social justice advocate requires more than liking the right kind of stories on Facebook, requires more than being friends of progressives. It requires more than having the right job. You can and must live your values daily in every facet of your life. Treat everyone with dignity. Keep vigil in your hearts for those we've lost on this long arc bending towards justice. Thank you and congratulations.